All right, it's time to make my witness. Chris Cuomo here, and we start with the big moment of the day.
I think you're going to have, hopefully, a really great mayor. And the better he does, the happier I am. I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he's going to be. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people. Actually,
it was a productive meeting focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers. The meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers.
Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would, especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought.
Welcome to NewsNation. This is where right and left can come to be reasonable. Boy, that meeting was a shocker, right? So many are shocked. But let's be honest, too many are disappointed, right? I see a teeny win for the tormented. I say, bravo, Mr. President. Bravo, Mr. Mayor-elect. Thank you for dropping the BS attacks for one meeting, just one meeting, to talk about what actually matters to the majority. Think about when the last time is we had that. We have huge problems, structural inequalities, forcing costs up and up, killing small businesses with tariffs. So thank you for sparing us the fascists and commies and Nazis and this, okay? And I don't like that you two are taking heat, albeit from your fringe followers. Social media is rabid, and it is rabid about being denied the rage bait that it requires. Either you see people on there lying about one of these guys owning the other one in the meeting, and that's a lie, or they're pissed that that didn't happen. All the reporters trying to foment tension. Do you still think he's a fascist? I'll get back to that. But why do you ask that question? Why? Because you don't want it this way. Why? Because this doesn't sell. Rage bait equals revenue, not reasonableness. Not this. This doesn't get it going. This isn't going to trend. Now, is it weird that the president was this way with a radical lefty less than 24 hours since saying other Democrats should be executed? Yeah, that's weird. Well, which is the real one? Both. Let me tell you a little secret. The upside of our president not being particularly tied to principle is that he is very pragmatic, and he wanted exactly what you saw, okay? He is the big man, okay? This is the newbie coming to him. He stood like he was in the principal's office, all right? And he wanted you to get a message. I am not antagonistic to affordability, and this guy is the mascot for the affordability crisis, okay? See, we agree. We get along on affordability. Is it contrived? Sure, but that's politics. You don't think the division is contrived? Of course it is. They're only doing it for advantage. These people go to the same holiday parties. Now, I'm just choosing to care about what they were talking about today in that moment, the way you guys were all focused on what happened yesterday with the treason and the sedition. Okay? And here is why I'm giving most of the credit for this meeting being what it was to the president.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
I actually think Mamdani said yes because Trump told him to. I mean, he really did seem a little out of his depth, and it's to be understood. I mean, literally, he's never done anything like what he's being asked to do or what he asked to do right now. But the way Trump handled that told you where his priorities are, right? Look, the haters were not completely denied their daily dose of division, right? MAGA was in war mode, just not in the White House. Okay? They were in the House of Representatives. They were in war mode. They introduced a resolution, which, by the way, has almost zero legal effect. But a resolution does let you know what a particular party thinks is important. MAGA wanted to slap the young visiting socialist, and they wanted everyone on the record that socialism sucks. Now, My take. Look, I know socialism is a dirty word in American politics. It does not always mean what despots make it mean. There are aspects of our policy structure right now that are socialistic, but forget the rationale. Here's the reality, okay? Polls show people are not as afraid of the idea of a socialistic fix as desperation from affordability deepens, okay? You do not get caught up in vernacular, in form, when you are desperate for function, all right? That's why, even though all the examples in this resolution of socialism were horrible, they are clear episodes in political history to reject, most Democrats refused to reject, refused to sign, refused to call out even the worst of socialism. Why? Because that's what they want? No. They don't want to agree with MAGA about anything, okay? They don't want to piss off their left flank on this issue, okay? I'm telling you, this is the battle for the midterms. Who more of you believe can do something to help with everything that's going wrong in our financial realities right now, okay? That's why I'll take anything that makes those issues our focus. You know why? Both sides. This is why today was so refreshing. Even though you want to see it as contrived, I see it all as contrived. What I see as contrived is not just today. That was good contrived. I don't like the bad contrived, right? Both sides would rather something easier that gets their base enraged than working on these sticky issues. Just look at this week and what we have allowed to dominate and distract us. Right on the heels of a shutdown that was supposed to be about health care, a fight that was worth allowing tens of millions to suffer pain just to make a point. Have you heard of any negotiations going on to extend the subsidies since then? Me either. But what do you hear about? This rotisserie of rotating rage bait, right? They want you to formulate your opinions about the other side, but on the basis of what? Things that barely matter to you, let alone the majority of this country. Look at just this week. What were the main stories this week after this shutdown, when it's supposed to be all about affordability, all about health care, all about the crises? The Democrats didn't put out a video on affordability. They baited the president about being a bad commander-in-chief because they're looking for a fight. Then we all learned what the word sedition means. Then we had Trump's quiet piggy comments. And then we had the president being nice to the regime behind 9/11 for many, Saudi Arabia. And then, of course, Epstein. Is there anything in there that is make or break for your family? You want to know what they don't want to deal with? Home insurance prices are expected to go up somewhere around 10%. And they went up 10% last year. Auto insurance, 12% on average this year, up 50% in the last 5 years. Employer-sponsored family health insurance, like what I'm getting. Premiums up somewhere between 6 and 10, depends on what you're paying and how big a group you're part of. Next year, they're going to go up the same amount again. The ACA premiums you've heard about, they could double without the subsidies. 7 in 10 of us say grocery prices are up. Steaks, 18%. Ground beef, 12%. Bacon, 6.5%. Coffee, up a third. Chicken breasts are up. Utilities are up over 10%. Electricity, gas, up. This is why MAGA wants to talk about anything else. They'll talk sedition and treason and Epstein and anything. They've got a better chance than fighting you on this. I'll tell you what I don't get. Why does the left keep taking the bait? I would talk about nothing but affordability. Epstein, release the files, affordability. Seriously. He's saying MBS is a nice guy, the head of Saudi Arabia. Whatever. Affordability. He's wrong. Affordability. That's what both men in that office wanted to own today. The people who you believe will do something about the crisis that is consuming us with cost, that's who wins the midterms. That's why you saw what you did in that meeting today. There's no reason for Trump to be meeting with the mayor-elect of New York City. With all what they've said, the guy's not relevant. He's not on his level. Why'd he do it? Affordability. He literally wanted people to see, this is the spirit animal of affordability. See, he likes me. We're on the same page with this. I'm telling you. Bravo. to the president. Bravo to the mayor-elect. They made a moment that was worth making today. So, the House, I don't like what they did, but maybe I have it wrong. Let's ask. Republican member of Congress, Mike Haridopolos. Democratic member of Congress, Suhas Subramanyam. It's good to have you both. Gentlemen, happy Friday. If I don't get to speak to you or see you before, I am thankful for you guys showing my audience that right and left can come together to have a reasonable conversation. Thank you for both doing that.
Thank you.
Suhas, what do I have wrong about the resolution today on socialism and why there weren't more Democrats eager to sign their name and say all these despots and socialistic travesties are just that?
Oh, I read the resolution, and many of the examples of the horrors of socialism were actually horrors of authoritarianism or communism or some other form. I think Republicans had confused the definition of socialism in there. So I had trouble supporting that, if nothing else, for that reason.
Do you consider yourself a socialist?
No, I'm a capitalist, but I will say that there are a lot of things where the government can get involved and should get involved, like healthcare and education and many other issues.
Oh, you better get involved. You guys already own the problem. You should be actively involved in the solution. So, Brother Haridopolos, what was the point for MAGA today? You got the president there extending a hand to, again, the spirit animal of affordability, right? That's what Mamdani is. That's why he whooped up on my brother, is that people are desperately focused on that issue, okay? So why put out this resolution trashing him and the idea of what you saw in the White House?
Well, when it was an issue that was floating around for a few weeks, of course, we were off for 43 days because the Democrats, as you know, chose to shut the government down. But to answer your question, Chris, in my opinion, I'm in office today because of the failure of the last 4 years. You and I both know that inflation hit record numbers the last 4 years. Food, rent, gasoline all went up. Of course, people were upset about the border, et cetera. What we have tried to do in the first 11 months this year is to attack that affordability issue. It's a tough issue to tackle. It was not easy. But what we have done this year to reduce prices for people, or at least put more money in people's pockets, is we reduce taxes on those people who earn tips, who earned overtime, who earn Social Security, and we also made the tax cuts from 2017 permanent. And we also reduced the overall government spending. As you know, and even Chairman Powell admitted that the big spending in the last 4 years is what drove inflation here in America, let alone, of course, the remnants of COVID. And so we're doing that. We're trying to reduce the overall costs of government, and we're trying to find ways to overall reduce health insurance costs. It's not just about the 22 million people on Obamacare. It's the 165 million people who are not just paying for the subsidies for other people, but their own health care costs, which you probably pay maybe $1,500 or $2,000 a month in just premium. And so I hope we can work together over the next 60 days to work on this issue about affordability. It's why I ran for office, because when I was in Florida, we actually balanced budgets. We want to bring that same mindset here to Washington, D.C.
That's because when you were in Florida, you had a governor who had a plan on what he wanted to do, and he put it and implemented it, and you guys don't. That's why there's an opportunity for the Democrats. But Suhas, when you hear his explanation that they're working on what things cost, what does it make you think?
Well, I'm excited to work with my colleague and anyone else who wants to work with me in Congress on affordability. I think I've introduced now 20 bills on just affordability. But this past week is a good example. We had 3 or 4 motions to censure certain members of Congress, and we had this horrors of socialism bill. We didn't have any votes on addressing rising costs. In fact, we had a bill that would actually raise utility costs for most Americans. And so, I love the talk, but this president, this administration has not actually done anything, which is why voters came out in droves to vote against Republicans in Virginia 2 weeks ago. I talked to voters at the poll. They're saying it's Democrats championing rising costs and trying to make sure that we lower those costs, not Republicans.
Well, listen to this, guys. Did you know this, Haridopolos? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Dusty tells me, just announced she's resigning at the turn of the year. January 5th. You guys are both surprised. So am I.
That's news to me.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
What do you think that's about? Dusty, do we know why? What is she saying? Is she running? Is she changing parties? What is she saying? Why is she doing it? All right, they're watching her video. She just released one. Interesting timing. Why announce that now? What do you know about her, Haridopolos?
Well, I'm not really sure. As you know, though, there's been a break with the president over the last few weeks about a few different issues. But I think when getting into the issue, what you care about most, I think, is affordability. I think that one of the things we can come together on is simple things like income verification. If a person's getting a subsidy, meaning tax dollars from another taxpayer, we should make sure they're actually eligible for the program, whether it be for Medicaid, whether it be for food stamps, whether it be for health care subsidies.
That's not the big
Let's
slice.
make sure that's a starting point.
Yeah, but
it's
no,
Chris. I've got to correct you here.
The big slice
Let me give you one example. Thank you. So they went through the numbers. 1/3 of the people who were on Obamacare last year did not use Obamacare at all. Not to see the doctor, not for a script, for a vaccine, anything. That means a lot of people
that doesn't mean it's fraud.
Are having a situation where the insurance. No. The average in the private sector is around 10%. What we want to do, again, we're not asking to penalize people. We want to help people who are truly in need. But there is fraud within the system. And one of the simplest ways we did in Florida is income verification. And that's the first way to start.
I know, you can
Just
do
like with the
income
border,
verification.
you want to have a
that.
wall before you reform immigration.
Yeah, but you didn't get a wall, right? What you did was you took advantage of the Democrats having a lapsed policy. We were never a wall away from safety. And that is not how you fix health care in this country. The biggest slice of the population
Chris,
you're talking about, they don't file claims because they're healthy.
Nope.
They don't file claims because they're healthy,
Chris,
not because they're phantoms.
No, I want you to go back. Chris, I want you to go back to 2012. The key component, my wife's a primary care doctor. It's very passionate in Florida and why it's important. They said that the key was having primary care. We wanted you to go to see a primary care doctor so you didn't run into a big expense at the emergency room. That's why it's so important. If you're on Obamacare, you go to see your doctor. You need to really push that agenda out because when you do that, it really makes the program work. Obamacare's basic premise was that. So we want to push that idea. And then beyond that, we also want to make sure that everybody benefits. There's 165 million people I'm also worried about, not just those in Obamacare, because their rates are going up as well. So I'm looking forward to working with Democrats. You've seen Katie Britt and others talk about solutions. We're at the table talking about it as we speak.
Look, Mike, I'm happy to hear it. I like the new you, right? Because you guys couldn't get anything done. That's why the government got shut down. Now, Suhas, here's the interesting aspect. Picking apart arguments for why things haven't gotten done is pretty easy. All right? The real story of the ACA is that the right has never wanted to work on it. They wanted to remove it. They just don't have any other plan. And now you need a plan. So there's an opportunity. Her resigning, I don't understand what that means. I think she's become much more of a player, MTG, rhetorically, than she is in terms of actually being relevant for policy. But within the Democrats, do you believe there's a real appetite for passing legislation that would technically be a win for Trump because he's in power and in the majority if it lowers costs for health care for the majority of Americans?
Well, first of all, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've passed bipartisan legislation all the time, even in this Congress. And so if it's a win for the American people, yeah, we've passed many pieces of legislation, 435 to 0. But I'll just say, just because it's, I want the American people to win in all of this. So the American people, I think, do win when we work together and are bipartisan. I want to say on Marjorie Taylor Greene, though, that I'm not surprised. I've seen a lot of Republicans showing up to Democratic Party meetings lately. There's a lot of people on the right, and including the far right, that are fed up with this president and his failed promises. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is clearly one of them. And so I'm not surprised that she's resigning because I think she's realizing and feeling like she's been betrayed on so many issues at this point. But yeah, I would love to work with Republicans on lowering costs and in a bipartisan way. But I haven't seen a healthcare plan that would actually do that. Nor the ones that I do see are basically taking away healthcare. So yes, having no healthcare costs nothing, or having very little healthcare that has a bias against pre-existing conditions, like we did before the Affordable Care Act. Like that's not a good plan, and that's what people rejected in the past, and that's why the Affordable Care Act is still very popular.
Let's see what you guys can do. I'm hearing more people talk about wanting to see some action. Let's see it. MTG says this. She's leaving because she's sick of the inaction of the two parties and the constant division, and she wants to spend more time with her family. and she doesn't want to be considered a battered wife. I don't know what that means exactly, but I don't think it means what it literally suggests. So we'll see what this means. This is weird timing for her to do this, and it's weird for your party, especially given the margins in the House, but we'll see what it means. Mr. Haridopolos, again, I'm thankful for you coming on this show and making the case. Mr. Subramanyam, thank you very much. Always good to have you. 4 minutes and 35 seconds into the break, affordability. That's what matters. What do you do about it, and what is the take on what this administration has meant for affordability and for pricing? Does Mr. Haridopolos have it right? Or does another conservative see it very differently? It is the issue. Everything's going up. I just got my notices, okay? You know it too. What can be done about it? What is being done about it? Answers from a real conservative, a real economist, and a real patriot. Next, you know him as the Mooch.
American people who are still feeling like things are unaffordable, who are still feeling like things are rough out there is look, we get it, and we hear you, and we know that there's a lot of work to do. And the thing that I'd ask for the American people is a little bit of patience.
Well, look, here's the problem. It was, I'll change it day one. This is so easy. Only I can fix it, right? Vance doesn't want to own that, but he has to because he was on the ticket that said it, right? So asking for patience, that's what Biden was saying. The question is, you get affordability, but do you get that people believe that you are responsible for the growing crisis? Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene just surprised everybody by saying she's going to announce that she's leaving. She just announced, effective January of this year. Why? Well, she doesn't seem to be sick or anything like that. She says she's just sick of the system, that she's been cast aside. So maybe she thinks the writing is on the wall and she wants to get out. What's really interesting is she says, you know, I haven't changed. I've always been fighting for the little guy. Well, I mean, she does believe in Jewish space lasers and QAnon. She said a lot of crazy stuff to get attention. And what does it mean? Now, I want to bring in Anthony Scaramucci. What does it mean that Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, a straight-up kook, right, up until very recently, believes you can't get anything done here and the game is too toxic? The lady who believes in Jewish space lasers is saying she can't believe what's happening in Washington, D.C. What is the impact, and what do you think the real rationale is behind her leaving, Anthony? And it's great to see you. I've missed you.
I think she's got some. You really want me to tell you? I mean, I'm probably going to get me in trouble. I think she's gotten some death threats. And I think that her turn against Donald Trump has gone very nasty because she was right there in the inner circle. And I think she says this is just not worth it. And I think she's pulled out and resigned. That's honestly what I believe. And I'm getting the information like you did right before the commercial break. But that's what I think. And listen, you know, she made some points over the last 3 weeks that I think are legitimate. And if you go to Vance, Marjorie Taylor Greene is more or less speaking to him. She said over the last 3 to 6 weeks, Chris, that she goes to the supermarket and prices are out of control. And you know this, I know this. You can go get a pot roast here on Long Island at King Cullen. It went from $9 to $36 in 2.5 years. I mean, it's not sustainable for the average person, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the message is when Marjorie Taylor Greene gets how bad it's getting and how things have to change, hopefully that is a clarion call for all. Vance saying be patient. There's a political problem with that. The real problem is who owns the affordability crisis. They want it to still be Biden. Is it too late for it to just be Biden? And is it about them going into panic mode and getting rid of the tariffs yesterday?
Well, listen, the numbers were coming down. They inherited a strong, healing economy for Biden. I mean, you know, you just have to look at the data. This is not rocket science. Just look at the objective data. I was on your show at the beginning of the year, you know, during like Liberation, when Trump came down from like Mount Evil, like Orange Moses with the tablet. And, you know, the stuff didn't make any sense. I said on your show, this would cause a slowdown in the economy. It would raise prices. It would also cause the incremental employee not to get hired, and it would cause people not to spend money on plant and equipment around the country. And all of that has happened in a 9-month period of time. Moreover, Chris, he doesn't like President Lula. He likes President Bolsonaro, so he puts a 50% tariff on Brazil. We're exporting a lot of fruits and vegetables from there because it's their summer versus our winter.
Right.
They're the largest coffee producer and exporter into the United States. You put a 50% tariff. What do you think is going to happen to those prices at the supermarket? So, and by the way, this is the other thing about Trump, too. The second season of this reality show, there's nobody around him telling him the truth. Besant knows this. Lutnick knew this. Why are you putting tariffs on things that we don't produce here in the United States? It's just going to cause a price increase. You're effectively taxing consumers. So, Chris, he did all those things. He's trying to pull it back. And Vance is right. You could be patient, but it took 9 months to dig ourselves into the problem. It's going to take at least 9 months to dig ourselves out of it. And that's right in the middle of the midterm elections.
Did you see in today that Trump gets it? And that's why he was embracing of Mamdani.
Yeah, no
it's not like he's
question.
afraid of the guy. Yeah. And he wants the affordability people to see him as an ally, and maybe he'll make a shift.
Oh, no question. Okay, so now you're getting into the president's political instincts. He had a choice there. They could have gotten into an excoriation with each other. He said that's not going to be good for him politically. He's also got a lot of real estate assets in New York that he needs to protect. And I think he handled himself masterfully there. Look, you got to call balls and strikes on the president, whether you like or dislike him. I thought he handled himself really well today, and I hope the two of them get along. You and I live here, man. I want this place to thrive. I was with your brother, of course, but he's our mayor now, and I want him to do well.
Yeah, listen, it's the only way to be. Some are surprised Trump was this way. I was not. I think Trump sees what's going on. I don't have to tell you, he is brilliant with optics. He sees things often before others, and he sees that affordability is everything in the midterms. He played this right today. I know that's going to piss people off that I'm saying that, and now I'm a Nazi. But if you want this country to get to a better place, you can't have the division be everything all the time. And that's why Anthony has made the transition that he has, and he's a fair broker, and I love him for it. Thank you for being on my show. I miss you. I'll talk to you before Thanksgiving, but great to see you, Anthony.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, brother. Be well. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Thanksgiving is going to be different. It's going to be different here, and it's going to be really different in Ukraine. Today, the president told Ukraine's president, if you don't sign this deal by Thursday, you're going to lose our support. Is the deal worse for Ukraine than even that consequence? Let's ask somebody who understands the situation on the ground there and here. Next. So the president was much nicer to the mayor-elect of New York City than he was to Ukraine's president. He said, if you don't sign this 28-point peace plan, which has had a lot of heavy Russian input, and you don't do it by Thanksgiving, you're going to lose America's support. Now, the question is, what is worse for Ukraine? I believe losing America is too big. They're going to have to do whatever they're told. But am I wrong? Let me bring in somebody now who absolutely has much better perspective on this, and I use him as a constant resource for my own understanding. Former special advisor to President Zelensky, Dan Rice. It's good to see you, pal.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Educate us. I see you got your Ukraine shirt on underneath there. Don't think I don't see it, although you're looking very 21 Jump Street, which I respect.
I like the mustache, by the way. Love it.
Oh, please. It's Movember. I'm doing what I can. I'm almost to where my grandmother was. So listen, Dan, what is worse for Ukraine? Do they have to take the deal because you can't lose America?
You know, Chris, obviously a very serious subject, and people are very concerned throughout Ukraine. First, let me say that this 28-point plan is by no means the end of the discussion. This is the beginning of the discussion. There are so many points in there that are Russian-focused, like, you know, Ukraine can't join NATO, Ukraine can't have more than 600,000 troops. These are idiotic things. So let's just get rid of those and just assume that this is the beginning of the discussions of a potential peace plan, which is great. I love to see the focus of the United States, of the President of the United States, focused on peace in Ukraine. That is great. Now, let's look at the things that aren't being said. First of all, who visited the White House this week? The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Where did President Trump go to in May and in November? There's been 3 meetings in the Crown Prince with President Trump. President Trump knows where the decisive point of the battlefield here is. The decisive point is oil. Oil will determine the end of this war. Low oil means the end of the war. Putin can't fight it. It's over. So the Crown Prince visiting the White House will bring low oil. He will increase production until Russia loses. That's my prediction. I believe that is the end of the war. Now, all this other negotiations are going to keep us discussing things and get things to the table. Meanwhile, Ukraine is destroying Russian energy, firing. I just met last week in Ukraine one of the owners of a company producing drones going deep into Russia. They are destroying Russian energy. Now, Chris, this doesn't go away when sanctions go away. These refineries are being destroyed in large volume, in huge attacks that are destroying the Russian. Russia is nothing without energy. And so you have basically a two-pronged attack. You have President Trump, you have Saudi Arabia increasing oil production, and you have President Zelensky destroying Russian oil. Together, it's going to be the end of the war. That's what's happening here, Chris.
So I saw what Zelensky put out about it. It'll be interesting to see if he doesn't create too much friction. If what you're saying is true, Trump's doing a lot of work for Zelensky to make this go away, and he's going to expect a certain level of call and response. We'll see how it goes. What was it that they called Russia? A gas station with nukes, right?
Gas station
so let's see if that's how it plays out.
Nation. Yeah, and Chris, just so you know,
Right.
so yesterday after the meeting with the Crown Prince, my classmate, Randy George, who's the Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, and General Chris Donahue, who's in charge of U.S. Army, Europe, and Africa, went with Secretary Driscoll to meet with President Zelensky. So they're meeting simultaneously as the president's meeting with the Crown Prince. They're delivering a message. I believe they're delivering a message that is saying, we will destroy Russia economically. That is the message.
Gotcha. Hey, Dan, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Have a good Thanksgiving. Stay safe. Stay in touch. Okay?
Chris. Thank you.
4 minutes and 15 seconds. So, why do UFOs matter? Transparency. Same thing with Epstein. I know you want to go after the Epstein class and all that stuff. Fine. I don't think it happens. But with UFOs, why aren't they telling us what we know they know? How do we know they know? And how do we now know why they haven't been telling us? That is the subject of a new documentary coming out that exposes an 80-year cover-up. One of the executive producers, the main voice of it, and one of the main sources, they're going to join us. Christopher Mellon and Lou Elizondo will tell you what needs to be told.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis.
Information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
All right, so here's the first spoiler, okay? This isn't made up, and it's not about little green men. They want you to think it's about little green men so that you can dismiss it as an absurdity. This documentary, The Age of Disclosure, tells you but you cannot avoid the truthiness of this film, all right? You got left and right packing this thing, saying the same thing. They know that there are things they don't know, and there's a reason they have been keeping that from you, okay? Whistleblower, executive producer of the film, Luis Elizondo. Okay, Lou joins me, and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, Chris Mellon. First of all, bravo okay? And well acquitted, both of you. Congratulations on the production as well, Lou. But I appreciate you both being with me, and I wish you much success with this as people can get it on Prime now and in select theaters around the country. Chris, let me use you, though, to start here with, there is a reason the government hasn't wanted to talk about this, and it involves competition and their fears of being behind. What does that mean?
Well, I would say first and foremost, one of the largest barriers to conveying this information has simply been the stigma that surrounds this. That has been a huge block and a huge barrier from the outset. Continues to be a problem. The movie discusses a competition between the U.S. and Russia, and alleges China as well, maybe in a race to acquire this technology and gain superiority, global aerospace superiority. One of the shocking things, truth of the matter is that right now, today, and we had 2 4-star officers on 60 Minutes admit that we are unable to control our own airspace. We lost the use of Langley Air Force Base, which is where the Air Combat Command is headquartered, which has as one of its responsibilities the defense of the nation's capital. And for several weeks, we couldn't operate our leading jet aircraft from that airbase. We still have no idea where those aircraft came from. We haven't been able to identify them. We didn't successfully intercept any of them. That should be very alarming to anyone concerned with national security in this country. And that is just one example of a dozen that I could roll off of these things invading restricted military airspace, our most sensitive airspace, and we don't know where they're from, we don't know who's controlling them, we don't know how they operate. So this is something that the executive branch fully agrees with now. There is no longer any debate, discussion, doubt about that fact between the executive branch or Congress. The administration, the Defense Department, all fully admit and acknowledge that that is true. So this film is, I think, helping to bring that forward, because we need a lot more action than we've had to date to get to the bottom of this.
Listen, I'm with it, and I appreciate the point so much, Chris, especially coming from you. And I've always, I guess my one beef is, Lou, what took so long? And I know that's totally an unfair question because you've been fighting this for so long. But when people watch this, they're going to be like, wow, this makes so much sense. Why haven't we been hearing this all along? And Lou, you have been fighting this fight for years. And what do you hope will happen now after this?
Well, Chris, great. Thank you for asking that question. It's actually very thoughtful. And to me personally, this movie was a bit like, forgive the cliche, but a bit like birthing an elephant. 3.5 years in the making. But look, when you're talking about getting over 30 separate senior officials, both on the legislative branch and in the executive branch. Think about this, Chris. Imagine 8 years ago going up to, I don't know, a former director of national intelligence or a former director of CIA or a former secretary of defense and say, hey, by the way, we're doing this little documentary film and we'd like to talk to you on the record about UFOs. They would laugh you right outside of the room, frankly, and probably then tell the security not to let you back in at some point. So the times have changed significantly, and this took time. And if you notice when you watch the video in the movie here, there's a lot going on. You literally have someone admitting for the very first time, a very senior ranking official, that in some cases presidents and Congress are not briefed to some of these programs. Now let that resonate for just a second, right? What does that mean to the American people? That's a holy cow moment. And I think if you want to provide a documentary that has rich with information like that and reveals like that, it takes time, and people have to get comfortable with who you are and really trust what it is you're trying to do.
No, you did it right. You did it right, and I don't want to give away too much of it because I want people to watch, but let me just say this. Once this gets its big wave, let's come back, Chris, I'll chase you down. Lou, I'll chase you down. And let's have that secondary conversation that you guys are stoking with this conversation starter, all right? It's a great film. It's a public service. And we're here for it at NewsNation, as we always have been, and on my podcast, The Chris Cuomo Project. This is about transparency and Americans taking their government back. Christopher Mellon, thank you as always. Lou, bravo, bud. You're getting too skinny, though. Don't go Hollywood, Lou. Don't go Hollywood.
Like you. I'm trying to look like you, Chris.
Oh, God. Aim higher than that. I look like my grandmother. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care and happy Thanksgiving. We're all thankful for this film. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Chris.
I see a lot of you commenting that it's the media that makes these stories, Epstein or the Saudis, that's why it is, that people want real news. I don't agree with you, but I will say it's symbiotic, okay? We all have a responsibility to focus on what we should. And I don't care if you like it. That meeting today was the right message from the right people. Leland Vittert, right now.